to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a roll call. Kristen, please.
Richard Sear,
Here.
Christopher Gray,
Here.
Daniel Haggerty, here, Ronald Murphy,
Here.
John Snyder,
Here.
Steve Thomas,
Here.
Derek Wood, absent.
I have a motion to excuse Derek from the meeting, please.
So moved.
Second. Moved and second, and I'll accept unless noted. All right, at this time, we'll do public comments. If anybody's got anything that they want to say, please step up to the podium. Seeing none, we'll move on. We have a motion to accept the consent calendar as read.
So moved. Second.
Second, we have a vote, Krista.
Richard,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Danielle, yes, Ron,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Thank you. Try to move twice.
All right, let's move on to new business. We have a couple items under there. The first one is the FR 2324-18. That's to consider approving funds to purchase an enclosed trailer for the election. Josh, you want to take that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. What we've been discussing amongst the office staff is to purchase an enclosed trailer for all of our election supplies. We have 3 elections this year, and in the transition, we have a shed out back that we usually house all our election stuff. We rent a truck, we plug it down to the school, plug it back, and as we went through this year, Josepha came up with a great idea, in my opinion, of buying an enclosed trailer to house all of the supplies and just leaving the equipment right in the trailer. And then just carting it down back and forth as we need it. So we discussed that. We got some prices on some enclosed trailers from local businesses, and just wanted to present that to the council tonight and seek approval to move forward with that.
I think it's a great idea. I happened to volunteer some time this last time to help load that. So by the time you load it, and unload it again. So you can cut that labor time in half. So I think that would work out great.
Mr. Berry, how much would that, are we looking at for additional spending?
Just under 11,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll read the resolve on that. Be resolved by the Hermon Town Council and Town Council assembled to authorize the town manager or his designated transfer $12,500 from the Public Works Facility and Equipment Reserve, Herm 08. Current estimated balance is $229,262.13 to purchase an enclosed trailer for the election equipment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
Josh, how big is the trailer?
18 feet long. 18 feet. She's like,
7.5 by 18.
it's gonna have.
It's only 12.5.
It's actually gonna be less than that. We put 12.5 in because there were some lights we were gonna have included, but the total out the door cost is gonna be less than 11 grand, I believe.
So this is a steel trailer versus our aluminum then.
This is aluminum.
I believe it's a little bit.
Yeah, we're getting a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real good deal.
And I would advise buying a lock for that too, so you can lock up the front of that.
Yeah, and one thing we've talked about is keeping it, this summer, we'll keep it in a garage. And then we're looking to clean up the public works area where we have it. We've got chain link fence right beside the sand shed. Getting that kind of reestablished as good parking area and eventually keep it there if needed. But certainly keeping it locked up, but adding some other protection for where we store it too. It's also we have a lot of, paperwork in our town office right now that is gonna allow us to bring filing cabinets and put them in the shed out here, so opening up some much needed space in the town office.
do we have any chance of, people trying to pilfer it?
We're gonna do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. Yeah, we'll park it inside, like I said, at least for the summer, once we get the plow trucks out of the garage, and maybe we wind up keeping it there full time. I don't know, but yeah, we're certainly gonna make sure.
Thank you.
Sir, just did voting machines be in that trailer? Will they be stored in that?
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Krista, we have a vote?
Richard,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Danielle, yes, Ron,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Steve.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next is FR 23-24-19, which is consider approving funds for the recreational football tournaments. I'll read the resolve on that. Be it resolved by the Hermon Town Council and council assembled to authorize the town manager or his designated transfer $24,500 from the recreational reserve, HERM 09, estimated balance of $143,692.55 in the enterprise account to cover football helmets replacement needed by the end of this fiscal year. So we get a
Are you
motion.
gonna talk?
I will.
Okay, it's been moved. Any second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I'm curious how many helmets we're buying, what age group they're for.
This is to replace the entire helmets for our youth program here in Hermon. This is an expense that we were planning for this next fiscal year. But to get the helmets here in time for fall, we need to act on it now. I'd have to check on the exact number, but we're in the hundreds of helmets that need to be replaced. And in order to get them here for the fall, we've got to get moving on it now. So I'm asking that we move this expense, the approval for the expense into this fiscal year. The football program is currently fundraising. They're looking to backfill a good portion of this, which they've already started in partnership with the sports arena. We had an event down there about a month ago to raise some money for this, and we've had some other local businesses that have reached out to help out with this. There's a life cycle on these helmets, and it just, as a new program, fairly new program, we purchased a lot of these at the same time, and they're all running out at the same time. It's really a safety issue for the kids we want to get ahead of.
Thoroughly support it. I just have a couple of questions. Can you explain the rec enterprise account?
Yeah, so that's really, the rec enterprise account is what our rec mostly operates out of. It's out of our normal operating budget.
And then what will happen next year? So are we no longer gonna put that in the budget for next year?
As far as an expense, we won't need to add that in for the CIP.
Anybody else? We vote on that, Krista?
Richard,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Danielle, yes, Ron,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Steve.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move into workshop. Budget discussion. Josh, you wanna cover some of this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. This is just the same cost center breakdown from last meeting. I really don't have any updates on, hasn't been any movement from our last meeting. I do think one item I've been in discussion with our finance department about this week is potentially increasing our legal line a little bit more. But other than that, this is just the same presentation from last meeting, so certainly open to any discussion or suggestions as we go.
So no changes from the last time, Josh?
No changes, this is the
Just wanna
same.
keep us updated.
Yeah, just I wasn't sure if there's any thoughts or discussions that maybe the council has had since our last meeting that we could go over tonight.
Any questions, councils?
Is this open to community questions as well?
Yep.
And probably what I'll do as we get closer, this is still early on in the budget preparation. Last year I put out an entire itemized list of our budget, and I'll do that here soon. I wanted to kind of start at the broader cost center view of it, but as we go, we'll bring the line item detail to the council and to the public.
Okay, any other questions? Guess not, we'll come out of workshop. Manager status report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. I wanted to thank Kristen and the election crew for another well-run election. There's a big difference in the setup this past election, in anticipation for a busier June and probably much busier November. So we're always thinking of new ways to make it easier on the residents and people coming in to vote, making it clear on the flow through the gym, and appreciate the school for accommodating us. Once again, I know it's not ideal for them, but it's the best we've got given the facilities we have here in town. So just wanted to thank them. Wanted to wish Brooke Shane a happy 30th birthday. She's one of our deputy clerks. She turned 30
I heard it was
today.
tough coming out of her 20s.
Tough coming out of her 20s. There was a little. I didn't get the memo on this, but they celebrated in all black to put aside her 20s. So it was a good celebration, and it was a lot of fun around the office today. One of those things. Charter Review Committee is gonna meet next week on the 20th, right here in the Public Safety Building at 6 o'clock. Just wanted to mention that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Josh. It's time for the final public comments.
Evening and forward. So the only reason I come tonight is that in 10 days, you're gonna be hearing the school budget will be presented to you. And it seems like the last couple of years, we've had this discussion around undesignated funds. And I can't seem to get an answer. People are still asking, was that a school board, a finance committee earlier? And now they're, without answering the questions, they're going forward on getting ready to either A, use some of those where I think it's not within state law, B, also move those funds against, unless somebody has a legal opinion that those will be moved without proper, without outside of what state law. And so I just wanted to bring it to your attention that it will come before you. It's a lot of money, and I'm just concerned that, look, if somebody comes here with a legal opinion that says, hey, we can do whatever we want with this fund, and it follows state law, it doesn't matter to me. But we've been asking about this fund, citizens, for a couple of years now, and we don't seem to be getting any answers. And now they're just getting ready, and part of this budget will be about $500,000 of this money. So it's important that people answer the question, so after this budget doesn't become a problem down the road. And I think the issue is number one, they have to sell this budget to the school board. You got to sell this budget to the town council and then to the citizens. And so things like this, these are the things that get underneath people's feet when they try to do that. So I just think it's pretty important that you know that hopefully somebody's asking those questions. We've certainly asked. We've made, we've asked specifically. We've asked in some of the committee meetings, and I don't seem to get a proper answer. So I'm concerned when that comes before you. And again, if it wasn't coming before you in 10 days, I would, if it was 2 weeks away or whatever, we could, maybe have a conversation about that. But certainly I'm very concerned that that's coming before you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Newell, 40 Stage Road, Hermon. Wasn't planning on talking, but I think I am. At the last town council meeting, there was a discussion between a resident and one of the committee members. I think the tone coming from the committee member and the response from the committee member was not conducive to this town council, not committee, town councilor, sorry, apologize. It was just at the school. As someone who was a public servant for 22 years, really, in the Army, you're still a public servant, you're serving this country. Had rules. They said, hey, no matter what they say to you, you have to act appropriately, even if you don't like it. So I think we need to go back and look at that and make sure, hey, was the resident being yelling? No. Was the person swearing? No. Was the person accusing? I don't think so. I think we really need to look at, no matter what people on this side are saying, we have to remember that you all are public servants, and sometimes you gotta take those hits of when the residents are upset or asking questions and you don't like it, you just sort of have to nod your head, or you say, hey, I will get back to you. There's tons of ways to approach the way that was done last time. So I just hope the individual has apologized to that resident, because I don't think it was very appropriate, and it could have came across very, depending on how you looked at it, very inappropriate in referring to her gender or something else. So I don't think that's what was intended, but that's sort of how it came across. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any public comments? Going to council items. John?
I'm all set.
Danielle?
I tried to get him to give the update on the committee, but you can see how that went. So John, Josh, and I had participated in the Hermon School Department budget meeting a couple of hours ago, and I would say that they've really worked hard on the budget. Just some numbers to go over, big numbers. The budget as it stands right now for next year is $19.7 million. It was originally started at over $20 million. And 400, and this is important to know, 406,000 of it is one-time expenses, some of them of capital nature. And the unassigned mill rate, just to clarify, that they're looking, I believe, is 1.2 million-ish dollars. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
To pull forward, obviously 406,000 of that would be towards the one-time expense. That leaves just under 900,000 or 800,000, around 800,000, to be towards operating, and that's down from $1 million last year. So they're starting to move the needle down to use less pull forward for operations. What else do I have? They realize that they are going to underspend this year, so they are coming up with a plan on what to do with the funds for this fiscal year that we're currently in. And I know it's not what we're going to be voting on, but I think it's important to understand. So they're going to look to move some of the funds into a capital improvement fund to do the the science room. I think community member and school committee members spoke here about the concern about the science labs, so they're looking to address that. And they're looking to, I've asked that they set a little bit more money aside for the bus reserve and the out-of-district reserve. Just to explain that, in the past, the out-of-district reserve has been budgeted in the operations budgeted and funded through taxpayers. So last year, John and I asked them to move the out-of-district placement, the extra money they put in there, because it's very costly to send, it can be very costly to send a student out of district. And so they have to budget more than they actually need each year. And when they do that, in the past, it would go to the taxpayer year after year after year, they wouldn't necessarily use it. So John and I asked if they would put it in a reserve account, so it's now sitting in a reserve account. They attach that reserve account to the budget, so therefore those dollars don't go out to the community members. We don't tax them year after year after year for those additional funds to send out of district. But it's a little bit lower than it probably should be. And then the bus is not funded at 100%. I know the school committee last year, one of their desires was to have a full funded reserve account for a bus in the event that something catastrophic happens. We could purchase the bus and not disrupt the budget with a $140,000 purchase. What am I missing, John?
That's about it. They align their revenue, so we should be able to do the school budget on what the state says our mandatory amount is. That's all I understood, right?
Plus a flat, that plus what we
Plus-
gave last year.
Yeah, so we shouldn't have a increase to the taxpayers of Hermon for the school budget this year.
True. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, so one of the big things they did and why the difference between where we started and where we are now is, and they admit this, the budget and the actual were not in alignment. So they would put a budget together, then they'd run the year, and they'd get to the end of the year, and the actual and the budget had a very big discrepancy. So they spent this year recalibrating the budget down to be closer to where they think the actual is going to be. It's a pretty wide spread, so they're looking to get at 2 to 3%, and right now they're running about 5+%. So they're trying to get that down. Important to remember when you recalibrate a $19 million, $20 million budget, it's probably going to take a couple of years to totally fine tune that recalibration, but they made an honest effort this year to get it into alignment.
Yep.
I think that's it. Josh, you were there. Did I miss something?
No, you nailed it.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thanks.
Richard?
My question to you is, when the bus dies, we're gonna have to wait a year and a half to get it?
Well, that depends, because the state has a bus approval process, and so if we have a situation where we think the bus approval would be approved through the state, we would have to go through the state process, wait for the state to make a decision, wait for inventory to be available. Right now, they're still having an inventory issue with buses. So we're at the mercy of inventory in the state. But there are years by which the state will approve 2 buses, which is why they want the second bus in a reserve in the event that that was to be needed.
Anything else?
I don't know what the town's gonna do when you leave. You're so organized. I hope we have somebody trained and watch out for that broken bus.
Steve, is that all set? Chris?
While we're discussing it, just for my own clarification, you mentioned the out-of-district reserve. What do they have appropriated there currently? Do you have an idea?
For next year, they're budgeting $60,000 of the reserve. I honestly don't remember what was in the account. I could look, or we can give it to you next time, either way. Okay.
No problem. Do you have a rough idea of what you're looking to increase that to, or what they're looking to increase that to?
I would defer to them. I just know historically they were funding in the budget, I believe, over 6 figures. And I do not believe the account currently has 6 figures in it.
all I have. Okay. Thank you.
I wanna thank, John and Danielle, they've done an awful lot of hard work with the, school finance committee to get things lined up, and I also wanna thank Brian, I know all three of them have really worked hard on that, so thank you for that. Thank you, Kristen, for everything that you do on, voting. I know that's a lot of hard work and a lot of days leading up to the long day, so thank you very much for that. That's all I have, if I could have a motion for the executive session.
Actually, before we do that, I just wanna jump off, I also wanna thank Jesse, because he was the one that really figured out where the discrepancy was between the budget and the actual, and what we needed to do, or they needed to do, as a school to fill that gap. He's the one that really figured it out, and I think that was a big moving piece this year.
Good.
I move we go into executive session.
Somebody could read that for me. Read it.
Consider enter into executive session to discuss a personal matter, town manager position for one, MSRA 4056 alpha.
It's been moved and seconded, we have a vote on that, Kristen?
Richard,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Danielle, yes, Ron,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Steve.
Yes.
Thank you. Will you be coming back?
We will not be coming back, no.
You sure?
We'll have to come back to close. Come back for adjournment.
Do you want me to stay? In case you come back?
I think it'll be very long.
I don't think so, but.
Why don't you stay, Kristen, just in case?
Cup coffee.
I was gonna take a
Can't take the one.
Come back around. And you want to go through the process of that.
Yeah.
I can walk it out. And you guys.
Well, he's gotta keep it.
You want this on? I would.
It's muted.
That's fine. You can
Yeah,
leave it.
leave the video on, please. Okay.
We gotta come back over here.
We'll come back over to it.
I'm gonna drag you back home. Don't mind, yeah. I just needed to visit. Oh, too funny.
So we're
Oh,
coming back
nice,
in.
small world. What does your father-in-law do?
Defense contract.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, thanks for saying that.
No problem.
And then he came back. Okay, we come out of executive session, don't have any decisions to make, so I just need one motion.
Second.
Moving something, we adjourn at 8:30.
Thank you. Good evening.
Once you move your arm,
See ya.
I've returned back to nursing too. Yeah,
where you work,
I work for health. Out of Portland.
so you go to Portland?
Nope, they do contracts for,
Yeah.
health or agency. So